In this episode of the Live Unrestricted podcast, we're talking about why there is a part of you that doesn't actually want food freedom and why that part is running the show and interfering with your goal of cultivating a healthy relationship with food, of becoming someone who no longer struggles with food. So this is such a good one. Let's get into it. Welcome to the Live Unrestricted podcast, a show where you'll learn how to heal your relationship with food and your body so that you can focus your time and energy on more important things like your personal growth. I'm your host, Sabrina Magna, food freedom coach, and my mission is to help make your life happier and healthier without stress, overwhelm, or guilt about food. If you love the show, please do go out and share it. And if you're looking for support with your relationship with food, details about my programs are in the show notes. Thanks for spending time with me today. Now let's jump in. If you feel like you have set so many goals in your life, and specifically because you're listening to this podcast, we're going to talk about goals that you set relating to your relationship with food, healthy habits, improving your health, improving the way that you relate to food. Chances are you have set goals over and over again. Maybe it's that you want to stop using food to cope with your emotions. Maybe it's that you want to move more consistently or eat healthier or think about food less. And ultimately, the goal is for you to feel like a freaking normal person around food. And maybe you have not understood why you can want something so badly in your life. And you know that it's going to make your life better. It's going to improve the quality of your life. Why would it not? And yet, either you self-sabotage or it feels like no matter how much you work on it, you read the books, you listen to the podcast, you follow the social media accounts, you really bring all of this knowledge into your life, and yet you are still not where you want to be. It feels like there is this wall that keeps getting in your way. You are going to understand in this episode why this keeps happening. I am so excited to record this episode because I got back from my Sedona trip just a couple of days ago. So if you don't know, I have a really soft place in my heart for Sedona. I have gone 4 or 5 times at this point. And I went last week with 2 of my business girlfriends who also happen to be incredible coaches and just people who act as a mirror to me. I was talking to one of my friends last night, and he was asking me, did you go to Sedona for personal growth or for business growth? And I said, they're kind of the same, because the only way that my business grows is that I grow. Like, those 2 things go hand in hand. And the only way for me to support my clients and walk them through, guide them through deep soul level, identity level transformation is for me to go through it myself, because how the heck am I supposed to teach someone how to change their lives on topics and challenges that have been around for so long without going through that myself, without having those challenges myself? So I love going to these retreats that we create within ourselves because it gets me out of my environment and it forces me to really let whatever has been bubbling up at home that I haven't even been able to see because we're so busy in the day-to-day, it gives me an opportunity to work through my blocks and my blind spots. And I am someone who I do this work every single day. I meditate every single day for 30 to 45 minutes. I journal, I go for walks, I listen to podcasts, I read books. Like, this is what I do for a living. And so I'm so immersed in it. And the reason why I'm talking about this is that no matter how much of an expert you could be on a topic, you will always have blind spots. And no matter how much knowledge you learn, your subconscious mind will always try to hide things from you as a way to protect you, to keep you safe, to keep you in what is familiar, and to ultimately to keep you from growing and from stepping outside of your comfort zone where things are going to be unfamiliar and unpredictable. And so it is so incredibly important, and I want you to hear this, it is so incredibly important for you to have a mirror in your life, or it could be many mirrors in your life, people who can show you things within yourself that you would not be able to see. And a perfect example is when I got to Sedona, I have been feeling really good in my life lately. I've been doing very intentional work on my identity and how I think, feel, the choices that I make on a daily basis. I've been noticing myself changing. It's been wonderful, quite honestly. So I was going into this retreat thinking, I don't really think I have that much to work through. I don't think I have that many blocks or any breakthroughs that are waiting for me. And boy, was I so wrong. I get to Sedona, and within the first day or two, I start experiencing anxiety that I cannot explain. And it was the kind of anxiety that I just knew if I go home feeling this way, I'm going to feel really disappointed because clearly there is something that is trying to be shown to me that I don't know what it is. And that was really frustrating. My girlfriends, Rachel and Rebecca, were asking me like, what's coming up for you? And I was like, I genuinely have no idea. And so what we would do is we kind of created our own retreat. And it was so intentional and it was so beautiful because we all collectively have so much experience from the work that we've done on ourselves and the work that we've done for our clients and the trainings that we've gotten. When you put all of that together, it creates this like unstoppable force where whatever you are having issues with, wherever you are feeling blocked in your life, it will be shown to you. It will come to light and you will be able to release it, transmute it, and then clear the way for you to actually achieve the goals that you are saying that you want. So we would sit around the fire at night. It was just so it was so beautiful. And I have like really exciting things that came out of this retreat that I'll talk about at the end of this episode. And there were many, many lessons that came out of it. And if I were to try to go through all of them, I think this would be a 3-hour long episode. So I'm going to stick to the most important one that is going to directly impact you and quite honestly, open your eyes to why you've been feeling stuck. So as I tell you this story, I really want you to think about how this relates back to you. What is the goal that you currently have when it comes to your relationship with food? Because it's going to guide you to unpack why you haven't achieved it yet. So we're sitting around the fire and I have this goal that I have around my business that I've been feeling really good about. I have been working on it every day, overcoming the resistance, because remember that when you have a big goal, it will trigger big resistance. It will trigger self-doubt. because the bigger the goal, the further away it is from where you currently are. And so the further away it is, the more unfamiliar it is, the more unpredictable it is, and the more dangerous it feels for your nervous system, because your nervous system, your body, it gravitates and it tries to stay in what is safe and what is known and what is predictable and what is familiar, even if that thing is not serving you, even if that thing is creating a lot of pain in your life. A great example is chronic emotional eating. You probably know how it's affecting your health, your physical health, your mental health, how you feel about yourself. And it's also disconnecting you from your emotions. And you want so badly to overcome it. And every day you vow that today is going to be different. Today I'm going to stick to my plan. I'm not going to fall back into it. And then it's like this force takes over and it feels like you're no longer in the driver's seat. And it really does feel like you are not in control anymore. And you fall right back into it. And you're like, why does this keep happening no matter how much I want to change? So I'm always like, I have studied goal setting. I've studied everything when it comes to your body and your subconscious mind and what can interfere with you achieving the thing that you want to achieve. So here I am for the past couple of months working on my goal, and I feel like I have released the resistance that's getting in the way. I feel like I'm on the path and that there's nothing blocking me. So we're sitting around the fire. Here I am feeling anxious and I don't know why. And my girlfriends are asking me questions and they're like, well, if you had to guess, what do you think is coming up for you? And after a little bit of back and forth, I am bawling my eyes out. I am like uncontrollably crying, and I was not expecting that at all. And I realized that this big goal that I have in my business and ultimately in my life, because so much of the growth that I have in my business impacts the growth that I have in my life. And I love it that way. I don't think it's a problem because I have a very healthy detachment with work now. And I realized that although a big part of me was on board with achieving this goal, there was still many parts of me that had associated achieving this goal, expanding my business, having more eyeballs on me, with losing people in my life, ending up alone, people canceling me, like really, really dark, scary things. So when I was being asked about what I was afraid would happen, or what that scared part of me was afraid would happen if I achieved this goal, when I was really honest with myself, I was afraid that I would leave my family behind for some reason, or that my family wouldn't come with me. Like when I would picture myself with the success that I'm chasing or that I'm after, and the amount of people that I want to impact, I saw myself alone in that success. Meaning my family wasn't with me, my friends weren't with me, Luke wasn't with me. And so I had associated this goal with ending up alone. And it's not logical. It's not rooted in facts. Because when I really was able to notice that that's the association I had created in my brain, I was able to then bring in my logical mind and realize this makes no sense. My family is incredibly supportive of me. And I think that there's this really young part of me that is stuck in the past. I'm the youngest of 5 in a family of very high achievers. And I always felt like I needed to compete for attention, to compete to be seen. And I don't need to do that anymore. All of my siblings, if I were to end up being more successful than all of them, and they are very successful, they would have 0% resentment. They would just celebrate me and be so proud of me. Same thing with my parents. But that part of me that thought that I needed to compete or keep myself small was stuck in the past. It hadn't been updated. It hadn't seen new information about what my life is like now. Same with my friends. I, growing up, had certain friendships that felt very competitive whenever I would do well in school or in sports. I felt like I needed to stay small because if I celebrated my wins, it was met with resentment. And so that part of me was stuck in the past. Also thinking that if I were to let myself expand as much as I wanted to, that I would lose my friends or that I would outgrow them or that they just wouldn't come with me. But when I was able to bring my logical mind on board and back to the present moment instead of being frozen in the past, I realized that that's not true. My friends could not give two shits about how successful I am or how not successful I am. Like, that's not why they love me. That's not why they're in my lives. And same with Luke. So that was really, really helpful because I was able to update this story that success meant being alone. And now the new story was, okay, success means I can bring everyone I love with me. So that created safety for my nervous system to say, okay, achieving this goal is no longer dangerous. It's no longer going to lead to your isolation, which for the human body is a threat to your survival. Now we've paved the way to show myself that achieving this goal is safe. It's actually really positive because you're going to be able to bring all these people that you love with you. And that was only one of the fears that were coming up for me because we have all of these different parts within us, all of these different old versions of us that created these protection mechanisms throughout your life, throughout different relationships that you've had, different challenges, different traumas for a lot of people. And so throughout the weekend was like hitting all of the different fears and resistance that I didn't even know were there. Another example was I had associated growing my brand and having more people see me with being canceled. And it got so weird. Like, my friends asked me to really walk them through what that would look like. And when I got very specific on the story that my subconscious mind had created, it was people are going to start Reddit threads about me and they're going to start storming my Instagram accounts and writing all of these negative comments. And I was going to have to go into hiding. I am not kidding. That is how ridiculous and how extreme my subconscious mind was. And so, of course, if my mind has associated my current goal with being canceled, losing everything, losing my business, ending up alone, and then having to move back in with my parents' house, which is exactly where my mind took me, then no matter what, my body is going to keep me small because it's associated this goal with something extremely negative and extremely scary. So we had to walk through this new scenario of what would actually happen, something that is rooted in reality. I had to update this story that had been frozen in the past, that was not rooted in reality. Like, the chances of that happening are probably 0.0001%. And I had to do a software update. That's really what it felt like. It was this software update. So how does this relate to you? As you've been listening, I hope that you've been thinking about your own goal. And you might have many, but there's probably one specific that you can think of. As humans, we have a negativity bias, which means that we will always, if we don't pay attention and if we don't become aware of this, we will always focus on the worst case scenario. And this happens very low beneath your level of awareness, but you will know that you're doing this because it's the what ifs. What if I fail? What if I can't do this? What if I lose people? What if I gain weight? What if I lose control? The what ifs are always negative, always, always negative. And if we're going to play the what if game, then why don't we play the what if game in the positive? But that's not the way that we are naturally wired. And so we will have this negativity bias. We will expect the worst case scenario, because if we can be prepared for the worst thing that could happen, then anything that is better than that, we have been prepared for. So I'm going to use a beautiful example of using food to cope, because I think that this is something that a lot of you can relate to. And this doesn't have to mean emotional eating. This could also mean tracking, micromanaging your food, obsessing over calories and macros and your weight. And so what we're talking about here is just using food to manage your internal world. So you've got the two extremes. You've got one of the extremes, which is using food to push down your emotions, to not feel the anxiety, to not feel the stress, to not feel the overwhelm, to buffer. And then the other side of the extreme, which is using the tracking and the obsessing and the micromanaging to feel a sense of control in your life, to manage your anxiety, to ground yourself, to make you feel safe. So you might experience both of these extremes, but chances are you experience one or the other. And you probably have this goal, if you are listening to this podcast, to overcome that pattern, to stop using food to deal with your internal world, to stop micromanaging and obsessing over every single thing that you put in your body, so that you can just eat and move on. You can nourish your body in a way that feels good. You can stop overeating. So you have this goal that is very well-meaning, and you are probably actively working towards it. If you're listening to this podcast, it means that this goal is top of mind for you. And I will have clients who we've been working on this goal for a couple of weeks, and they're starting to take the steps towards it. But I can notice in their energy, in their language, that there's some stickiness around it. But oftentimes when you're doing this on your own, the stickiness is so subconscious. Like I was telling you, I didn't even realize I had stickiness around my goal until I got out of my environment and had these mirrors to show that back to me. So you set goals that you genuinely want. You can see exactly how your life gets better on the other side. And you assume that all parts of you are on board, because why wouldn't they be? But there's a part of you that has attached achieving that goal to losing something that scares you. And that part is quietly running the show. Because if it wasn't, you wouldn't feel any resistance around it. You would be able to feel this sense of expansiveness around it. And if you have been working on this goal for longer than 3 to 6 months, then there is absolutely a part of you that has attached that goal to losing something. And if you can't identify what that is, meaning if you can't identify what story is driving the worst case scenario, then that worst case scenario is going to keep running your life, and you will keep operating from a place of fear and from a place of resistance, and you will stay in those patterns that don't serve you, that you want to get rid of, because it feels safer than the alternative. It feels safer than the worst case scenario of losing or spiraling in whatever way that part of you has created. So I'm going to take you through a short exercise or process for you to start shedding some light on it. Because I promise you, I have yet to meet someone who has a big goal that would completely transform their life and that doesn't have resistance and fear attached to it. So I want you to think about what that goal is. And you probably have already done that because I asked you to do that earlier in the podcast. So identify what that goal is. And I want you to really picture and embody yourself living that goal, achieving that goal. Really allow yourself to experience all of it. And when you think about actually achieving that goal, I want you to pay attention to what happens in your body. If there is any tension that comes up, any weight on your heart, or tension in your shoulders, or discomfort in your throat, or pit in your stomach. And chances are 99.9% of the time, there is going to be a physical sensation that comes up, or there's going to be a thought in your mind that comes up. Maybe it's going to be, you can't do that. You've tried so many times before. Whatever thoughts come up for you, I want you to stay with that. And pause this episode if you need to. Stay with that resistance that is either a physical sensation in your body, identify it, notice how it feels, or what's coming up in your mind. Those are the ego stories. Your ego is going to throw stories at you, excuses at you, past beliefs at you when you are genuinely considering achieving that goal. And I see this all the time. I see this in myself, and I see this with people who will consider joining Food Freedom Academy. They have been actively working on the relationship with food for years. They haven't been able to make the kind of progress that they want. They've tried dietitians and therapists and programs before, and maybe they've made a bit of progress, but they still don't feel like it has clicked in a way that feels natural and intuitive and like their new normal. And that's what they want. They don't want this to be a constant struggle, something that they always have to be working on. They want to leave it behind. And that's the kind of deep level transformation we do in the program. And they know that. If you've been listening to the podcast, they know that. That's why they reach out. And then there comes that point where they have to make the decision to join. And I've done this before where I'm like, I want this goal. I believe I can achieve this goal. And then I'm presented with a program that's like, I'm going to help you achieve this. And all of the ego stories start to creep in. Because now your ego, whose goal is to keep you in the known and keep you safe, is feeling threatened. Like, oh my God, she's going to change. We can't let this happen. So let me throw all of these stories about why she shouldn't do this. You can't do this. This is the wrong time. You're not ready. So there's going to be all of these stories that start to creep in. So once you start noticing there is resistance there, this is not some indication that you've failed. This is not some indication that you can't achieve this goal. It is a beautiful indication that there is a part of you that has associated this goal with something negative. It has associated this goal with something threatening and something scary. And if, as long as your goal is associated with something threatening and something scary, you won't achieve it because it's going to be a protection mechanism. You will self-sabotage. You will be 1 foot in, 1 foot out. Your identity will still be rooted in the past. And if your identity is still rooted in the person who struggles with food, it's only a matter of time before that identity takes over and brings your behaviors back to that, brings your thoughts back to that. And that is why you feel like you haven't been able to finally make it all click for you. So you want to identify the resistance, the stories that come up when you think about achieving this goal. And once you've done that, you want to start a conversation with that part. And you want to get really curious about what it's afraid of. What are you afraid is going to happen if you no longer use food to push down your emotions, to numb the stress and the anxiety and the overwhelm and whatever comes up? Or on the other side of the spectrum, what are you afraid is going to happen if you no longer obsess over food, count calories, micromanage everything, really stick with what is the worst case scenario? And what I talk about with my clients is you want to follow the thread, meaning, okay, then what? Okay, then what? So for example, when I was doing this for myself of losing everyone, it's like I outgrow my friends and my family hates me for being successful. And Luke gets, I don't know, intimidated or threatened and no longer wants to be with me. And here I am building this life that I thought that I wanted, but I end up all alone. And then what? Well, if I end up all alone, then I become super depressed and I want to burn everything down. And I completely burn down my business. And then I end up with burning down the thing that I have worked so hard for and that has brought me so much joy. And I still have lost the people in my life. So now I end up with literally nothing. I end up with no one and nothing and no job. Like, that is what happens when you follow the thread. So if you follow the thread on your emotions, for example, it could look a little something like, if I no longer use food to cope, then I won't be able to manage my emotions. I'm going to get overwhelmed by the stress, by the anxiety, by the loneliness, by the boredom. I'm going to get overwhelmed by all of these emotions that I haven't let myself feel. And then what? Well, and then if I'm overwhelmed, then I'm not going to be able to function. I am going to break down and I am going to not be able to go to work and not be able to show up in relationships. And I'm going to spiral into this deep, dark hole of depression or anxiety. It could look like that the more you follow the thread of where your mind is going. And it looks something like that. It is probably because there is a part of you that in the past did get overwhelmed by those emotions, did not have the skills or the knowledge or the tools to handle those emotions. That part of you could be 5 years old. It could be 10 years old. It could be 15 years old. And that part of you is frozen in the past. It doesn't know that you are now a functional adult that has new knowledge, a new support system, new tools, new capacities. And when I do this with clients inside of the program, we do so much work on emotional regulation, nervous system capacity, giving them the tools and the skills that they need to navigate emotions. And it's so interesting because they are making a bunch of progress. Like they are sharing their wins every week of, oh my God, I noticed that at night now I'm able to find new, healthier ways that actually feel good to release my stress. I'm no longer using food. I'm kind of grieving the fact that I no longer use food, this friend and this companion that was in my life for so long. And so they're having all of these experiences in their life that is showing them that they can handle their emotions in productive ways and that they're not getting overwhelmed by it because now they know how to release it out of their bodies instead of just pushing them down and then storing that energy in their body. So they're having all of these experiences on a day-to-day basis of them being able to handle those emotions. But that part of them that is stuck in the past doesn't know that. That's what I mean when I say you need a software update, is that part of you that still thinks that you can't handle this, that you will be overwhelmed by this, doesn't know that you are a grown adult who has all of these skills, who has a support system. So you need to update your software so that part of you knows that this goal is not going to lead to annihilation, that this goal is not going to lead to you spiraling down into a deep, dark hole and then messing your entire life up. Because as long as you don't have that software update, you will be going through the world letting a version of you that is stuck in the past control your life and keep you stuck in patterns that do not serve you. The point of this, and we go really deep, and I did this in Sedona as well, but we go really deep in the program on like how you do that software update. But the point, the whole goal of doing this is so that your current goal is no longer associated with your worst case scenario. Your current goal is now associated with your best case scenario. When is the last time, my friend, that you gave that any attention? Right? If we're going to play the delusional game of focusing all of our energy, all of our mental space on the worst case scenario, which is probably, like I said before, 0.0001% likely of happening. Well, let's be just as delusional about the best case scenario. Because if you imagine that you are at a crossroads, or actually, let's use a different, more helpful analogy. Let's say you are standing on a cliff and you have two options. Option one is that you stay on your side of the cliff where your quality of life is extremely poor and you feel miserable. But option two is that you jump into a void where you don't know if you're going to land safely or if you're going to die. What option do you think that you're going to choose? You're going to choose the option where even though your quality of life sucks, you know that you're not going to die. And so the only way that you will take that leap and you will jump into a new life, into a new opportunity for yourself, is if you know for a fact that you will be safe on the other side, that you will be able to survive. And so in the context of what we're talking about on this podcast, you have to create that for yourself. You have to show yourself what is the best case scenario. You have to show yourself what is actually going to happen when you achieve that goal. So what it looked like for me was I had to walk through what would happen. Let's say that fear that I had of getting canceled. I don't know why I was so scared of that, but that's for another conversation. Let's say that we talk about that fear. I had to walk myself through what would happen if there was someone in my life who would try to cancel me, or if there was people in my Instagram who were writing all of these nasty comments, and how I would handle challenges in my business as I would expand. And the thing is that when I did this, I realized I have a huge support system of people who I can lean on if and when that happens. And I could show my nervous system, if this happens, then I will do this. If this happens, then I will do that. Therefore, I was able to show myself that I can handle it. And I honestly, that became my new mantra. And I kind of want to get it tattooed on myself, is this recognition that I can handle it, that I have worked on myself so much, that I have grown in so many ways as a person and as a coach, and I can handle it. I have gone through so many challenges in the past few years that have tested me, that have led me to break down and want to give up and feel like such a failure. And I have picked myself back up, and every time it has made me stronger. And being able to really know on a deep level that I can handle it. Because ultimately, the reason why you are feeling stuck and the reason why you haven't achieved your goal is because there is a part of you that doesn't think that you can handle it. So I'm going to leave you with this. So many people think that they are scared of failure, but really the scariest thing for our nervous system is success, because success means change. Failure, on the other hand, we have all experienced before. We know what it feels like. We can predict it. We've been through it. So failure is a lot more predictable and is a lot more familiar than success. And so even though success is going to make your life better, it feels scarier for you. So I recommend that you listen to this episode again and you let it land and you let it click and you go through the exercise again that I walked you through. Because when it really clicks for you, when it really lands for you, I'm telling you, there's going to be this release of energy in your body. That resistance and that fear that has been driving you on a subconscious level every day will be released, and it's going to open the doors for you to step into your goal, for you to step into your identity without any of that baggage that is holding you back. And if you want support with this, this is exactly what we talk about inside of Food Freedom Academy. We talk about your subconscious mind, your identity blocks, your nervous system, and all of the ways in which you might be holding yourself back from truly achieving the food freedom that you want without even realizing it. So if you want to learn more about the program, you can go to sabrinamagnan.com/FFA. And I will also let you know, this is the first time that I'm announcing it, and I will let people know the closer to the date that we get. But the price of the program is going to be going up in a couple of weeks. So if you've been thinking about it, wanting to join, then you have this period to get in at the current price. before it goes up in a couple of weeks. So I hope that this episode was valuable for you. I love you so, so much. Thank you for listening. As always, send me a DM on Instagram at Sabrina Magnan Health. Let me know what was the biggest insight for you from this episode. And I will see you next week. Bye, my friend. Thank you so much for listening to today's episode. If you found it valuable, I would love if you would share it with someone you know that could benefit. If you're loving the show, don't forget to subscribe over on Apple Podcasts so you don't miss a single episode. I really love hearing feedback from you, so please leave a rating and review over on Apple to help us get in the ears of more people who need it the most. Finally, come hang out with me on Instagram at Sabrina Magnan Health for more educational content and get up close and personal with me. Thank you so much for being here, and I'll see you on the next episode.